Free stuff is awesome, but free stuff to spice up the bedroom is even better. Whether you're buying a gift for your sugar baby or just for yourself, you can get 50% off at adamandeve.com when you enter the code CANDY at checkout.
And that's not all. Adam and Eve will include 10 tantalizing free gifts, a sexy item for him, a special gift for her, and a third item all partners can enjoy. Plus, you'll receive 6 free spicy movies.
But the best part is the free shipping.
You can get all of this at adamandeve.com using code CANDY at checkout.
That's CANDY.
So Shelby, what are you getting me?
Kandy Girl Podcast. Fuck me, daddy.
Hey, all you candy sluts and bubble butts. We are back this week. I'm one of your hosts, Emily.
And I'm Shelby.
And I'm Cactus.
I was gonna start with the boob job thing, but that's
great.
fine.
Let's start over. I think I talked when you said bubble butts. So so boob job. Okay.
And Kandy Girl got a boob job. Welcome, our newest host.
It's me, Cactus. Hi.
Cactus Kutie has joined the Kandy Girl crew. There's 3 hosts now, and we are so fucking excited to have her, obviously. This episode is going to be different from all of our previous episodes, but it'll be the start of all of our new episodes. We are rebranding, restructuring, whatever you want to call it. We have Cactus. Yeah, we're getting a boob job. That's what we're calling it.
Yes.
We have Cactus joining the show permanently now. We just did all of the paperwork that involves becoming a co-host on Kandy Girl. We basically a couple weeks or like a week ago, Emily and I got on the phone together and we were both like, man, I'm so unmotivated. We both absolutely love this show. You know, this is our baby and we put our heart and soul into it, but we were just so unmotivated to continue to work on it and we didn't know what was up. So we were like, let's put out a couple posts on social media, see if we have any feedback from people and see what we can improve upon. And Cactus replied to one of our Instagram posts and she was like, I really love podcasts that have a sex worker's perspective. It's really cool to like when I'm listening to your episodes and somebody says something, sometimes I'll have a question that you guys might not think of because you're not sex workers and you don't have that experience. So it'd be really interesting to have a sex worker on your podcast and be able to ask those questions when you have guests. And I was like, yeah, that would be so cool. Like if only there was a sex worker out there who would do that with us.
Me!
Cactus was like, me,
please.
And so I texted Emily and I was like, we should have Cactus as a third co-host and we can just restructure the show. We can make it, I mean, obviously it's sex work centric. We're focusing on sex workers' rights, sex workers' stories, all of that jazz. But now it's going to be, I think, a little bit more entertaining than just listening to an interview.
I'm so excited to be here. Like you said, I just messaged you and was like, hey, so I think it would just be really nice if you had like a sex worker, wink, wink, you know, I'd really like to join because especially from like our first episode, I really clicked with you both. And we were talking about this before we recorded, but I follow both of your personal socials just because we were like, yeah, we're going to be friends, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. But also I just love podcasting. I've actually been wanting to get into podcasting. So this was like a perfect opportunity for me to do it. And I've been listening to your episodes since we recorded. Yeah, I just think it would be great to have like a sex worker's voice on your podcast, not only just to like have better banter or whatever, or to be able to ask different questions, but there's also this, you know, I hate to say it, but if there's not a sex worker involved in something, people think of exploitation or they think of you're doing this for yourselves, not to benefit sex work or anything. And I know that's not your intention at all, but I'd love to help you just like build and become something that has a sex worker's voice behind you or, you know, at the forefront, you know, we're all 3 of us, just so it is more, you know, doing something with my mouth. You know, it's not gonna give you a bitter taste in your mouth. It's gonna be sweet. It's gonna be candy.
It's gonna be candy.
It's gonna be candy! Cactus Candy! Which was the name of my episode, which I actually listened to last night. That's such a fun episode to listen to, and I just realized, like, what I was talking about, and I would love to hear not only some things that I talked in there was like consent with sex work, and I'd love to hear more talk about just more of the behind the scenes of things. And there's only, as much as I love you both, and I think you both have great ideas, you're still new to the sex work industry, and you're also don't have the experiences of a sex worker. So I think, like, just things I'd be able to ask them different questions or be able to get a little bit deeper, So I'm just, like, super stoked about this opportunity. When I was messaging, I was like, please say yes. And then you were like, yeah, okay, it's happening. It's official. Like, so just it feels so good. I'm really, really, really excited. So thank you.
And going back to like the exploitative side of, having a sex work podcast when you aren't sex workers, which is something Emily and I have had like many, many discussions on. And I think it's another reason why we didn't actively go out and seek a sex worker, because personally, I was like, I don't want it to feel like we're just trying to find a sex worker. So we don't put out a certain image. So I'm glad that you volunteered, but also like our dynamic, all three of us, like, I think we're very entertaining. I think we have great banter. So I think
I love seeing your smiles at least on the video. We all have great smiles for everybody who can't see.
It's true. No,
yeah.
Facts.
I mean, I can't think of anything that, wouldn't be made better with the addition of a sex worker. Like,
100%.
Our government,
I mean,
that's a big one.
That's absolutely true. If there was more sex work, there is sex work in government. They all do it behind closed doors, obviously. Like, we know Trump loves pee, if you heard about that. But it's because they're so ashamed of using sex work and supporting sex work that they make other people feel bad about it so that they don't feel bad about it. It's a whole thing. But if we were just more loving and open to the fact that we all, like, most people enjoy sex work, if not Pornhub that's free, whatever, or supporting sex workers in, a more ethical way. But everybody does consume sex in some way. And when we're not shaming it and we're not exploiting it, obviously, or at least, intentionally exploiting it, there's so many good things that could happen with this world. Absolutely. Rather than just sexualizing us, we could build a better world.
Oh, 100%. And you joining the show really gives us an opportunity as well to, like, have a structure, I guess, because Kandy Girls started 2 years ago when I was about to be a junior in college, and it was literally nothing other than I had a friend who was a sugar baby, and I was like, your stories are really crazy. We should just record them and we should, publish them. And she was like, that's an awesome idea. Let's do that. And so there was no consistency. There was no structure, really. Our episodes would be like 10 minutes long. And then when Emily joined the show, we kind of got more of an idea of what we were doing, but it had already been established and we were just kind of like rushing into things. So I'm really glad that you're here. And now we have this opportunity to frame what we want this show to be about and who we want our listeners to be, and like our goals as far as education and entertainment and building a community, I guess, which is something that I feel like I've definitely learned through this podcast, is the sex work community is so strong and so important too.
Absolutely. We're all here for each other in the sex work community, for sure. I mean, there's definitely quote unquote whorearchy, but I feel like for the most part, I mean, every industry is going to have people that are, not necessarily helping others in it, but I feel like sex work, especially because we're so marginalized, we're there for each other. And it just really means the world to know. I know you started from just short stories about like a sugar baby, but like the topics and the people that you work with, it seems like you're you're here to uplift sex workers, not just tell stories. And that's why I really like your podcast, is because I just truly appreciate the platform to be able to educate not only as a sex worker, but to give other sex workers the opportunity to, because I don't know everything. Obviously, I'm one sex worker with my own experiences, and you both are people with your own experiences as well. And we all have different ways that we think about everything. So it's just, you were saying like education, you're saying all these E words, empathy, Emily. Like, I was just getting this alliteration going. I love it. But super, super excited to be here. And I just appreciate your transparency as well. I know we talked about this a bit, and that's kind of why I really wanted to join. You have this even on your website. There's a whole page about your transparency, and like, we're not here to exploit. We just really, truly want to be here for sex workers. But like we said, like, as much as you want to do for sex workers, not having a sex worker on your side can look negative. And that's not the only reason I joined, obviously. Like, ever since we recorded our episode, I was like, bring me back. Let's talk again. I love it. And also just, you know, the platform to educate and inform and all that kind of thing. So I appreciate the transparency even that we've had between each other. But I think just having transparency as a podcast is so truly important, because you have a platform and you want to say like, hi, we're here. We're vulnerable. We're trying our hardest. And just showing exactly what we're trying to do and what our purpose is and our goal is. And like, yeah.
And I'd love to talk a little bit more about the transparency. I mean, you briefly mentioned our website. I'll get into that in a second. But you said a word earlier, and I wrote it down. What is the whorearchy?
Whorearchy. So it's kind of like a hierarchy, but for whores. It's like, you know what? I actually just saw a post on this, and I'd love to give credit to the person who did it.
Yeah, this is definitely something that I've wanted to talk about, but not had the words to do.
And I'm happy to talk about that, because I actually just had an instance that something happened to me personally. Whorearchy-wise? Is that the word I should say? Okay, so I want to give credit to the person who posted this, and it's slutty scents, like smell scents. And I'll read it. Whorearchy is a mindset/system within sex work that leads oneself to believe that they are better than the next sex worker because their job is considered more classy, or holding themselves to a higher standard solely because they possess more money, followers, or influence. And the thing that actually happened to me, so I have a little screenshot on my story that I'll share. So I posted, you know, kind of like a little sad tweet, but also just I wanted to talk to some sex workers because it's slow season. So I said, like, slow season officially started, just watching my OnlyFans percentage go down. You know, I was just being a sad sack that day, obviously. Not normally that kind of person, but you know what? I know that other people are going through that too, because slow season affects a lot of us, not just even sex workers, but it affects freelancers of all different types. So then there is the sex worker who I'm not going to name, and she has already blocked me right after this. She said, "If you think that way, it will be, babe. Our thoughts attract our reality." Instantly, I was like, okay, this is very whorearchy, right? So I replied, you know, I work a lot. I have a very positive attitude, as I'm sure you both know. I appreciate your sentiment, but because she is a 0.04% creator on OnlyFans. Like, she's making bucks, right? I'm a point, or not even a point, I'm an 8% person. So it was very elitist. Like, I'll say whorearchy is the elite. You know, it's coming out of something when you've had so much privilege and so much distance from, I guess, quote unquote reality, or at least the fact that there are people struggling in this industry. It just goes past their heads, thinks it's a mentality thing. And it's based on where you live, what your circumstances are. Like, you can't just be a sex worker and automatically go viral just because you're thinking good mindsets, you know? I've been a sex worker for over 4 years, and I work very hard constantly. Just because I have slow seasons, that doesn't reflect on the amount of work I put into it or my mindset. I can definitely understand, like, if I'm not having a good day, like, I'm not gonna put out my best content, but the elitism, like, it was just, are you kidding me right now? And then I actually reposted it, and I think like 40 people messaged back and was like, yikes, that's not cool.
Well, it's kind of condescending, you know? It's like, I make so much money that I can give advice to other sex workers who don't make as much money as I do.
But even, is that advice?
But it's not advice. But that's not
telling somebody
advice.
to change their mindset. They could have said, oh, what are you doing with your OnlyFans? Is there something that's not going well? Or can I help you? Can I repost you? Can I retweet you?
Exactly.
Like, that wasn't helpful. That was just condescending.
Oh.
It's not, yeah. Like, what's the point of that? If you really want to truly help out people, and I know that I'm a 8% creator, whatever. I don't even say my percentage because I don't care. But when you see somebody with 0.04, you're like, and bragging about it. Anyways, I just feel like she had no place to do that. But if she really truly wanted to help, not just me, I'm not as struggling as so many other sex workers are. I don't have, you know, the best income, but like I'm not absolutely struggling. But even just if she wanted to help me, if she wanted to help somebody else, if she wanted to help me help somebody else, like anything, that would have been great. But there was no help, just telling me to be happier. So yeah.
Yeah, just
so that's
smile
kind of like
more.
the whorearchy. Exactly. It's like you're so out of the mindset that this person is in, that you're in like it's a privilege. It's an absolute privilege, you know, to be able to say that. You can't tell somebody who's struggling, who makes $500 a month on sex work, to just have a better mindset. And like, you know, because that'll definitely change their, you know, situations at home or whatever things they have in life that have been given to them. So whorearchy is basically just people who feel like they're better because they have followers and that kind of thing. But we see that in celebrities. We see that in YouTubers. We see that in so many different people with money, followers, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just a sense of entitlement.
I was going to say this kind of reminds me of a couple years ago when Kourtney Kardashian was selling those jeans, and that one girl was like, oh, I worked 20 hours so I could afford Kourtney Kardashian's jeans and I love them. And Kourtney replied and she's like, this is so cute. It's like, girl, fuck you. She worked 20 hours. Like, you have no concept of how much work that is to afford a single pair of jeans. And the audacity you have to say that it's cute, that's so condescending. That's, I mean, not the same thing, but similar, you know, like out of touch with reality because you are so privileged.
Absolute. You and I were talking about that we like YouTube and follow drama channels and that kind of thing. There's, I love watching commentary channels, and they all do relatability things. It's like, she couldn't relate to me because she's never either been in my situation, or she's gone so far past that she's completely forgot that people are in that type of situation. So it's definitely, yeah, it's privilege. It's a mindset that they're in, and they're telling people to get on their level, which is not cool. You should help us on our level to get to your level rather than just telling us to do it. So that's another reason why I want to be here. And not only here, but I'm hopefully launching a YouTube channel soon, and just trying to shift more into education and helping people either get into the industry, or if they're already there and they're struggling, like what can help them. Because I feel like we're all learning from each other, and nobody's really, I mean, there are definitely educational things out there, but it's hard, especially when you have people to compare yourself to like this, who just tell you to have a better mindset. So I just think education is so, so, so important, and people are struggling out there. So I love that there's this opportunity to chat. I'm going to be using my platform even more for consent, helping people in the industry, not just marketing, but like just how to function, you know, live your life, feel comfortable, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us to what we're trying to go for in the show, is a more conversational tone instead of the interview style that we were doing. It's going to mostly be Emily, Cactus, and I kind of talking about sex work issues. We'll have certain topics that we cover. We have segments that we want to do, which we're really excited for. We definitely want to do like a bad sex work take of the week. And I want to think of like cuter names for these, which we'll come up with eventually, but we don't have them right now. Like a bad sex work take of the week where we go to Twitter and we find somebody say something dumb and easy to debunk, even maybe not even easy, but like a bad take. And we'll be like, this is why that's not true. Like, this is why they might think this way, but that's a misconception, blah, blah, blah. Emily was thinking we could do some explanatory segments about sex toys and how they're supposed to be used. And I was thinking that would be good for like safe sex too. And safe sex can range from vanilla sex to BDSM to sex workers, how you should treat them when you hire them. So yeah, we've got a lot of different ideas for, and then any like sex work news. That's not always something that we'll be able to do because there's not always something in the news. However, there is today, and it does involve a rich YouTuber, which we'll talk about in a bit. But if you guys are listening and you have any ideas for segments, please let us know because we would love to test them out. Also, if you have any cute segment names, we'd love that too because we don't have any.
I'm excited to do the sharing the text messages with other
yes
the DMs, not text messages because nobody texts us, but unless you're like on a sexting platform. But I think just hearing just the weird things that people message us, like who isn't curious about that? And I think that's kind of like a fun, entertaining thing to show about sex work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've always thought that you have to rope people in with like the entertainment and look, everything's fun. Here's why they're people. Yeah, there has to be some sort of hook, which is why, we want to deliver education on an entertaining basis. So if there's anything, again, we're here to ultimately serve sex workers, serve the public. If there are any ideas of how we can best do that, please let us know. Please reach out. I promise we're so friendly to email. We respond to every single one. I've written like page-long emails just because somebody asked one question. Like we all really go in depth. We just want to hear from y'all. So
yeah, the passion to be the best there ever was. There's definitely like this, we just want to be able to be a platform that's serving in the best way and being most efficient and most considerate and helpful. And I truly get that from you. And I love your passion. I can tell it from just messages that we have to your faces when you light up and talk about things. I truly love it. So yeah, definitely there's like entertainment parts about the podcast, but then I love that there's also that opportunity to give people to really talk about serious stuff too. So it's not just all the silly stuff and it's not all the silly or the serious stuff, but definitely a little mix of both is great.
Yeah, I think it's important to remind people that sex work is not one thing. It can be a survivalist industry, but it can also be somebody's like choice of income, and while there are exploitive parts and there are difficult parts of sex work, that's true about every industry. I mean, all labor is exploitive under capitalism.
Yes, not just sex workers sell their bodies. Everybody sells their bodies because they're using their bodies to be able to work for things. And then they're getting, I don't have to worry about paid leave. I don't have to worry about, can I take time off because somebody in my family died? I don't have to worry about all these exploitative things that people put on workers. I mean, I definitely am exploited in my own way, but not by an employer. But there's definitely, like you said, there's exploitation every single job you have.
Absolutely. And it's definitely...
We're in a capitalist society.
Exactly, yeah. And so I'm just saying, like, especially with, like, sex work exclusionary radical feminists, because that's typically their argument is we don't support sex work because it's exploitive under capitalism. That's also ignoring that all labor is exploitive under capitalism. And, like, why are you singling out sex workers? Let's talk about that a little bit. Is it the classism? Is it the misogyny? It could be a mix.
There's probably misogyny and shame. Shame is definitely one of the reasons that most people do things because we're all ashamed of ourselves. It's like, oh my gosh, how could you do that? It's because I would be ashamed to do that. Not, I think what you're doing is wrong. I'm sure they think that, but they think that they would be uncomfortable in that certain situation. It's like, you don't have to be in our shoes. Just like support us for the things that we want to do. I don't want to be an at-home mom. Nothing against them, but like, that's just not what I want. So don't put that against me for choosing what I want in my life.
100%. And I also don't think you have to be necessarily comfortable with something to understand it and support it, especially when like other people's livelihoods are involved, you know? Like Emily and I kind of talk about this sometimes. Neither of us consume a ton of porn, but that doesn't mean we don't support sex workers and we're not retweeting their videos and their pictures and trying to get as much exposure for them as possible, because there's still people trying to make a living. And even if we aren't consuming content that sex workers make, like we're going to do what we can to support them because, you know, in general, I feel like they don't get a ton of support.
I love to hear that. That's kind of like sharing, you know, Black businesses on your Instagram. That's like, you know, necessarily like, I don't always eat this kind of food or I don't always shop this kind of thing, but you're giving the resources for other people to be able to see it and consume it and to be able to be supporters of those people. And I love that. I love that, you know, you don't have to watch porn to be pro sex work. You don't.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't have to watch porn to be a sex worker. There are definitely sex workers out there. I do watch porn, but yeah, but you're, like you said, you don't have to be able to support something.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to be a consumer. Yeah. That also goes for like social media just in general. You don't have to, if you can't afford something, like I know that there are better ways to support sex workers and to financially support, but if you don't have that money, like, I mean, I don't always have the money to be able to give out, but what you can do is retweet, save, like their posts, share it with your friends. I know sex work is also a little bit harder to share with your friends, and that's kind of one of the harder things about sex work I've found in sharing my friends and stuff is like, you only kind of share things through, clients aren't really friends with each other, except for like cam people really do have like a community because they're all in the same chats all the time. But, you know, that's if you have good people anyways. Share, like, retweet, give us some love, give us some sharing, because like if you can't support us, but you're just constantly looking at my photos and in my DMs like, damn girl, you got a nice bush and hairy armpits, which I get constantly. But it's like, are you going to support me in any other way? Or are you just going to try to do this secretly and try to get me to be like yours? But it's just like, it's the lack of respect, truly. Like, this is my job. Help me out.
Yeah, and I feel like with a lot of issues, there's this idea that like, oh, I'm not like the others. Like, secret support, glad you're not.
Yeah, but it's not.
I'm glad you're not just outright being abusive, but like it's not enough.
It isn't. Like, it's honestly trying to keep me for yourself for free. Like, I definitely do have regulars that I talk to in private, and I talk to them in private because they've paid for my content, but I'm just not going to talk to anybody that's out there for free. And also, like, on camming, on Instagram, on Twitter, everything, people don't like to be public, and I understand that because it's sex work. And sometimes you don't want to out yourself on a sex worker's platform. I get it. There are definitely more secret ways you can save our posts. That actually does a lot on Instagram. You can have a private account on Twitter, you know, retweet our stuff, or send us $1, like 50 cents. I don't know. Anything that you're able to do that just show, like, that minimum effort just shows that you think that I'm worthy of your time and that this is a job. I'm not here for everybody, obviously. And your support isn't support when it's secret. You can't, I mean, yeah, but that's not uplifting me in any way. Like, I get this constantly. You're not special.
Yeah, absolutely. Shifting gears a little bit, I said earlier we were going to talk about some sex work news, and just saw today that there is a little bit of news. This is something we covered with Erica Heidewald in our Raisinets episode when Bella Thorne kind of fucked over a ton of sex workers with all the bullshit she posted. And I feel like kind of contributes to this whorearchy thing that you were talking about earlier, because she was doing this, oh, I would never show myself nude. Like, there's something wrong with that. Like, sex workers who do that are dirty or something. So, but that's a whole nother rant that we could go on. And this is kind of on a similar line, but trigger warning, we are going to be discussing pedophilia because we're talking about Gabi DeMartino. If anybody is familiar with the situation, by the time this episode comes out, this will be a little bit older. Maybe some more shit will have happened by then. But as of today, Gabi DeMartino posted on her OnlyFans, she was selling an image or a video, I think, of herself as a toddler for $3. And the video was of her like flashing the camera, like her parents were like, Gabi, put your clothes back on, something along those lines. And she captioned it, won't put my panties on, with like a little smiley face emoji. So definitely was meant to be a sexual caption. One, sold it. Two, she was an actual toddler in the video. And since then, she has tried to be like, oh, I didn't understand that was inappropriate. Like, it was supposed to be funny, but then why would you monetize it on a platform that's meant for sex work? Come on, girl. Like, how dumb do you think we are?
And also, like, OnlyFans terms of service, one, like, you have to be 18 and up. Two, beyond that. And that means all of your content also has to be 18 and up. And like, also, what was your purpose with putting a picture of you as a child on a platform for people that are there sexually? Like, did you want them to look at you as a child? I mean, this is very trigger warning. The purpose, it just makes no sense. But like, sure, you didn't understand, but like, why did you have that content ready to put on your OnlyFans? It just seems like really off.
Yeah, absolutely. I genuinely, like, I don't think there's any way that she can defend it. I think if you have a platform in which you're selling sexual content and then you are selling, not just like sending, but selling a video of you flashing the camera as a toddler, I mean, there's no way that you're not trying to sexualize that.
Absolutely. I saw that. we both follow Spill Sesh, which is a YouTube drama channel. So I saw that, and I'm sure that Spill Sesh may even come out with like a YouTube video of it soon. So I'm excited to see that. Not because I'm excited about this story, but I'm curious to see other people's thoughts about it. You're absolutely right. Like, and this kind of gets me questioning, like, you mentioned, I think this is something you wanted to chat about, was people coming onto sex work platforms. So I have a few thoughts on this. I feel like, one, OnlyFans was actually created before sex workers came on, but they had a system made that was ready for sex worker. Like, they made it in thoughts that sex workers would be on their platform, but we can go on the whole thing. They don't promote us whatsoever, but people know OnlyFans as a sex work platform. All they promote is singers and artists and stuff like that on their platform, which is just so black basketball players, like stuff that if you say I have an OnlyFans and you're not posting sexual content, like, why are people there? Anyways, going back to the situation, is it's very interesting for why people are on our platforms, or what they're coming in without any education, obviously. And Bella Thorne is also one of those people. And most people, actually, that enter OnlyFans, because that should be on OnlyFans' fault too, is because they are terrible at their terms of service. They don't have a lot of information. Like, we're constantly questioning what we can and can't put on there. They change it all the time. Their terms of service is very small. I think there should be something for all creators and all, even clients, fans, what do they call them? Here's like a huge thing that you need to fill out, sign, and make sure that you're going to stay in the terms of service. And here's a clear, direct thing that you can't do. But within that, like, I feel like somebody should know that children shouldn't be on a sexual website, especially in a sexual manner. And honestly, I think that should cause a question of, should these people be able to keep their platforms? And I don't want to take away something, because I know if one of my friends, accidentally posted something wrong, I don't want them to lose their account. even though they do. But these people get to keep it after selling a photo for $200 like Bella Thorne did, and then making it harder. So because she got so many chargebacks, now we can't have higher tips in our messages or anything. And then with this, Gabi D. I'm going to call her
DeMartino.
Gabi D. Thank you. With this one, if you had the intention of doing that, I don't think somebody should be able to have a platform like that. It just makes all sex workers and anybody on that platform look bad. Of course, it makes her look bad, but then we constantly get looped into these stories that that continue these people's narratives, like very anti-sex work, anti-porn, anti-pro. They love the trafficking. Porn equals trafficking. It's just feeding into the narratives of that everybody's a pedophile. I'm saying it in the British. They say pedophile. I love it. I don't love it, but I love British accents. But I could see you both just cracking up. But
it's like when British people are all like, aluminium, like that's some bullshit.
It's clearly aluminum things. But yes, exactly. It's very pedophilic. And that should not be on any type of, we all know that child porn is wrong. We should all know this, I feel. Right?
Yeah, and Dr. Mistress Snow, who we interviewed a while ago in our Snowcap episode, had this tweet explaining or talking about how she was coming to understand the Gabi DeMartino situation, and she said, "Do not use this as an excuse to link trauma to sex work, in part because she's yet another influencer experimenting on OnlyFans and interfering with the livelihoods of sex workers already on there," which I think is another conversation worth having. Is a lot of anti-sex work people believe that people who go into sex work are only doing it to express some sort of trauma that they have experienced in their life. And that's not to say that that doesn't happen. It absolutely does. But it's wrong to assume that that's the only reason anyone would be interested in sex work. And it's another reason that it's so fucked up that some social media influencer would join a platform where a huge marginalized community is trying to sell their services and fuck it up for everybody and add fuel to a fire that's already raging against this community.
Just snaps. Thank you, Mistress Snow, Mister. I didn't hear what
Mistress, doctor. She's
Dr.
a
Mistress
PhD and a dominatrix.
Yes, love that. No, it truly, and I think we actually talked about this in my episode too, because I'm a person who comes from trauma, but that's not the reason I'm in sex work. There is definitely, it's like a rectangle is a square and a square is not a rectangle. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but it's like, so, a square has very certain properties, but rectangles can be a little bit more. Anyways, you can have trauma and be a porn star, but you don't have to have trauma to be a porn star. And this is the thing. It's just feeding that narrative. It's that people want to hear that we're all being abused and there's porn directors out there taking advantage of us and all these different things. There's absolutely people who do have trauma, and I don't want to put down people because I am one of those as well, but you can't use that as an excuse either. You just can't. It is.
And, oh shit, what was I gonna say? I had a thing that I was gonna contribute.
Well, I can contribute real quick while you think of that.
Go for it.
So, they brought it up. Today was a really busy day. The one aspect that when they were explaining it that I didn't really grasp until I started looking for it on Twitter was it wasn't like an Instagram post where it was a child photo or shared in a fun way. It's OnlyFans, and correct me if I'm wrong. So OnlyFans features, for those of you who are not familiar with it, you can mass send out a message and people will have to pay to unlock it. And so the message was, won't put my panties on, with an emoji with the video uncovered. So you had no idea what was there. And that's the part that I didn't get at first. You know what you're doing when you're sending out mass messages. It's the equivalent of Bella Thorne when she sent out messages and it was perceived as being like this nude sexual photo. You're not being clear. Like,
yeah, you're leading people on. And then she clearly, like, there's screenshots of it on Twitter. So yeah, it's a blank photo that just like has a little lock on it. It's like, buy for $3, and then you get to see. So I'm sure most people, when they first opened this before even the controversy came out, I mean, somebody had to have bought it and released this for somebody to know, obviously. So the fact that you didn't even know and then you open it up, like I feel like I would feel so uncomfortable as a consumer, like being like, what the fuck did I just pay for? Because she doesn't say, oh, look at me as a kid, picking up even then, like, I think that would actually be more transparent so somebody would know that they wouldn't open child porn or think of her in a sexual way as a child, which I guess is both things, but I thought those needed some type of distinction. But you're right. It wasn't clear. It was and that's the hard thing about OnlyFans, honestly, and those PPVs, that's what we call them, is paid private messages, or what's the V? Why am I not thinking of the V? But I say PPV so often. Anyways, pay-per-view. Oh my gosh. I knew it because you hear it all the time for like.
Oh, I thought it was pay-per-view, but I'm like, what's the V stand for?
No, I was saying
pay-per.
I know.
Vagina?
As soon as I said it, I was like video. I'm like, but it's not always on video. Vagina, sure. Vulva. Let's do it. So it's. Anyways, so that there is definitely like OnlyFans isn't my favorite platform because they themselves are not transparent and they don't allow people to be more transparent. You can put a trailer, but then that's extra work. There's not like anything that's like blurred that you can't see. Like it's just like, imagine just getting sent a message and being like, what is this? I guess I have to pay to open it. Like you can have like a great description and everything, but you're still not going to know what it is. So it's really hard to be transparent on there. But going back to Gabi D. So obviously she was clearly, she said like, won't put my panties on. Like as in like me today, like that sounds like me currently right now, not me as a child. It's spooky in here. She knew. Alexa knew. Anyways, you're absolutely right. So unclear. So uncomfortable. I would have felt uncomfortable as a consumer. I'm glad that somebody came out with it and said it, because that's teaching us all, what not to do and, what consumers should be looking out for and who they should really be supporting, hopefully, and why.
Before we go, I want to talk about the nonprofit and how Kandy Girl is set up. It's been set up like this for a while, and we've had all these things for a while, but it's been really hard to bring up in episodes because we'll be talking to our guests and then at the end, plugging all of our socials, and then it's wherein the episode does, hey, we actually filed as a nonprofit and we're trying to do everything to make sure that we don't exploit sex workers by using, I guess, the law? Yeah, by using corporate law. And I'll explain right now. So a few months ago, on my personal Instagram, of course, I talk about Kandy Girl podcast. And someone was like, y'all should file as a nonprofit. And at first, I was like, wait, why do we qualify as a nonprofit? First of all, the bar for nonprofits is a lot lower than imagined. Like, FIFA and the NFL were nonprofits. I think the NFL was a nonprofit until like 2005. And there are a lot of nonprofits where the money mostly goes to paying people, which makes sense if you're constantly working on a thing. I mean, you have to get a salary to live, but I'm talking like exorbitant salaries. And so that's why I think it's really important to be transparent when filing for nonprofit. So we are a registered nonprofit in the state of Colorado. We are waiting to hear back from the IRS, and the reason why we filed for nonprofit. So all these monetization efforts that you've probably heard through Adam and Eve, through our Patreon, we've been working on pitches in the background, getting money so we can do cooler things, have better equipment, better gear, and I detail all of our expenses and kind of our wish list items on our website so we can be transparent of where that money is going to go to. This had been discussed before Cactus joined, of balancing monetizing so we can do all these cool things and get all these cool things while not further exploiting sex workers. So the way that we're set up, Shelby and I aren't ever going to personally profit. It's all going to go back to our nonprofit, which is why it was so easy to decide to become a nonprofit organization instead of just stopping at an LLC. So we're excited for all the benefits that come with nonprofit status, especially for writing grants. And so, some of that money can be redistributed back into the sex work community. And so we can help however possible, besides just offering this platform, having some monetary power when we say we're here to help and empower and share stories of sex workers.
If you're curious about what we're spending any of the money that we make on, not that we make that much money, but if you want to give us money, that would be great because it's going to go straight back into the podcast. You can see all of that on our website. Emily did a beautiful job designing it, so it's very
gorgeous.
Clear.
It looks great. Yes.
Thank you. I got a whole degree in software engineering.
It shows.
I know a thing or two. But yeah, specifically where you can find it, because it's not super clear. Go to our website, go under support us, and then go under expenses. It lists where our money goes. Running a podcast is not as cheap. It's not like you just plug things in, slap some audio together and upload it. There's a lot of equipment, passion, time that goes into it. We have a wish list for things of like physical things. So if anybody is ever like, I had a podcasting phase, I have all this stuff left over, please email us. We just really want to be transparent. And if there's any information that y'all would like to know about Kandy Girl Podcast as a nonprofit, please let me know so I can put it to our website so everybody can know. I'm willing to put our business out there.
And with that, I think we are going to wrap up the episode. So you can find us, candygirlpodcast.com. On Instagram, we're at Kandy Girl Podcast. On Twitter, we're at Kandy Girl Pod. And you should follow Cactus Kutie as well and support her content. Do you want to plug your socials, Cactus?
Yes, I was muted. I'm still getting used to this. Cactus with a K, Cutie with a K. I'm Cactus Kutie most places. On Instagram, I had to put a period between Cactus and Cutie, but everything else, OnlyFans, all that kind of stuff. But I will have a website soon, so cactuskutie.com. Yeah.
Yay!
And I'll be
Oh my
sharing
God, I'm
lots
so
of stuff on my
excited.
page from, Kandy Girl, and I hope, obviously vice versa. So we're all going to be just sharing and helping each other out. So I am so excited to be here. This is so fun. First episode, we did it.
We did it! Yes! Everybody welcome Cactus to the Candy Sluts and Bubble Butts family.
I feel slutty and buddy.
and bubbly.
Bubbly. That's it. Slutty and bubbly.
And we will hear from you guys next Friday.
Bye.
Kandy